Hey everyone, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Zero to CEO, I speak to the CEO of Mulework, Bobby Goodman. Welcome to the show.
Greg, thank you for having me. It's glad to be here.
Awesome. Yeah. And today we're talking about strategic solutions for smarter growth. And I guess we'll start off with the fact that I've been a consultant for a very long time. I mean, we're talking about helping people sell stuff on eBay in the 90s, helping people build computers in the early 2000s, helping them build websites, and basically consulting everything in technology because people never know how to do anything apparently. And so how do you know when it's the right time to bring in a consultant rather than learning something on your own or hiring a whole company?
Well, that's a great question. I think the main thing is for people just starting out, if you're not sure what type of formation you need to have or entity you need to have, I think it's great to consult with a consultant at that time, basically because of the tax benefits that goes along with it. If you're already in an existing business, if your sales are typically lagging, or if you have some issues with companies that strategically transitioning to a high level, that's another time to possibly bring in a consultant.
Yeah. I feel like, at least in my experience, bringing in consultants usually has to do with experience levels. So like if I'm, really good at certain things, but then I find I keep struggling with one thing and I need help. That's usually when I bring in a consultant to kind of fix whatever the issue is or build whatever it is. And then they take off from there because, we don't need them anymore, which is also kind of saving money. And you talked about strategic execution. And I think that's where consultants come in perfectly, right? Like, so let's talk a little bit about like aligning your strategy with execution and how consultants kind of fit in there.
Another great question. I think one of the main things that, I apologize, I got stuff going on falling on my desk here. Um, uh, some of the main things for execution is that putting systems in place to be able to execute. I think that most people now, when they start out, they don't take advantage of all those tools that's out there for them to use because they don't know about them.
What
They've
what
never
kind of
inquired about
tools?
them. Uh, some of the CRM tools that you use for startups, CRMs, the like Xavier, like Zero, like for accounting, Hurdle for taxes. When you're starting out, a lot of people don't know that these tools like Hurdle will actually do the taxes pretty much for you, and they'll do a monthly profit and loss statement for you. A lot of
Nice. So
companies
that,
don't
so
know
so
that.
when it's time to do your actual taxes, it's already done basically.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Make it simplifies it for you because if you're not used to doing anything like that, and they would actually categorize some of the items that you have that you're bringing in. If you're going to be purchasing over supplies, it will actually categorize office supplies because it's attached to your checking account.
Yeah. And when it comes to these tools you're mentioning, I mean, people oftentimes they hear what's out in the market or like they've overheard other entrepreneurs or companies talking about certain solutions. There's a lot of things that trend, like you see Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, and people are always talking about certain things at certain times. Where do you stand on following those trends versus maybe customizing your own solution?
There are so many. Most people that start their business probably start something that they're familiar with, something that they've done on a 9 to 5. And when you do that, you obviously won't have the payroll or the money or the funds to do that. So you have to actually customize it to benefit you. You can't shop out of somebody else's pocket. You have to build off what you have in your account to do that. I think a lot of times you need to pretty much let go of what you know and just start from scratch. Because
Yeah,
if you worked at Target and you try to do something similar, you can't do that because you don't have the funds. I mean, they've
right.
been in business for years.
Yeah, it's always tough to battle those billion-dollar companies, isn't it? I feel
Yeah.
that I feel that pain because like I'm in the middle of running an AI B2B startup that's doing really well, but it's hard for us to compete with the companies that have, millions in VC funding. We don't have VC funding. We're trying to raise it. So, but we're trying to compete with these guys, right? With a very limited budget, very limited team. And so we look at as innovation as our way forward to stand out from them because our user experience is better, our customer support is better, our product in some cases is better from what we're told. So How do you see innovation and like kind of using that path to success?
I think that innovation is going forward is going to be the way that small entrepreneurs survive. If you're not on board with the AI as it is, as it stands right now, you're behind the eight ball. I mean, if you're not even familiar with the simplest thing like Chat GPT, things like that right now is bringing so much to the table that it's crazy. And for a small business owner, you have to be up on the latest tools and technology that's going on in order to survive.
Yeah, and you mentioned AI. Obviously, everyone's talking about it. I'm running an AI company, so how can I guess what I would consider a consultant instead of like an entrepreneur? Because the consultants are very specific. Like they help business owners or entrepreneurs do certain things. Do you see AI as a big part of that? And when I say that, I mean are consultants helping business owners use AI? And if they are, like, are you familiar with what's happening in that space?
Absolutely. I'd be on at least two AI calls per week to try to familiarize myself and learn as much about AI as I possibly can. Because again, if you would have to be blind not to see that that's where we're trending right now. You know what I mean? So I'm actually on those calls at least twice a week, learning as much as I possibly can and trying to get in each and every learning session that I can to try to be able to convey that to my clients.
Yeah. And you mentioned your clients a lot and being on calls a lot. So I mean, you're talking about Mulework, and so tell me a little bit about the moment when you realized that you wanted to start Mulework, and like, what was your inspiration for starting it?
When I first started my business, um, I sat down with a gentleman that told me it was going to be $2,400, right? And once I did my investigation, which I always do, it actually cost 100 bucks.
Hmm.
So I actually paid for my ignorance, so to speak. So I
Yeah,
vowed that day that I was never going to be taken advantage of again like that if I knew better. And once I started looking into it and reflecting on it, I said I'm going to try to help people as much as I can and charge them a reasonable price and teach them as much as I can without dealing with people like that. Because companies take advantage of you all the time if you're not familiar with what you're doing. And paying for your ignorance can be very costly. And there's an old saying that you don't know how expensive a consultant anybody can be until you pay a an amateur.
yeah,
Because once you pay that amateur and they mess it up, then you got to go to a professional.
right. That's kind of how I made my bread and butter early on as a consultant in the technology space. People would come to me with an idea for a website or an app after they went with a subpar company that destroyed whatever they were trying to build, charged them $10,000, $20,000 or more, and they weren't able to come up with a good MVP or a good prototype of this idea. And then they would come to me finally and say, okay, so now we're going to hire you to build this properly. So over time, I wrote a book, I did a course, I'd like really tried to teach people on how to do things properly, the MVP way. And what kind of mistakes do you think business owners make when they're trying to grow?
The biggest mistake is you're not set financially to grow. You're not there yet. A lot of times when people get started, you might have a couple of good sales and you think you're ready to take off. It's not exactly like that. You have to do a whole lot of, spend a lot of time with analytics, a lot of times with research to make sure that this is what the customer wants because nobody wants to buy something. Well, let me rephrase that. If you have a great idea, it might be fantastic. But if nobody wants your idea, then it's just your idea. You
Yeah.
can't sell it to anybody. So you got to, that's why
execution is
the research comes in.
execution is key,
Yeah,
right? And
absolutely. Yeah.
and you bring up a good point there. I mean, so how does Mule work? How do you help a business align strategy with execution? Because they have to go hand in hand.
hmm The first thing we do is we go in and we analyze and we talk to them and get to know them, see where they are from a number standpoint, from a system standpoint, see what they have and what they don't have, and what we can recommend. I think that when we get in there and we start to dig deep, we can normally find things that they're not doing correctly or things they can put in place to make things run smoother for them. And what we want to do primarily is save them money and time because most entrepreneurs or solopreneurs, they don't have a big team at the time. So we try to position them in a place that you can do stuff on your own, have systems in place, but also start working towards hiring a team of people, whether it's a VA, whether you outsource some things, but just basically getting you to a point where you feel comfortable letting some things go.
And you mentioned that you help them do things correctly or better. What are some of the things that, like, what are the top three things you notice when, let's say, a new client comes to you and
Hmm.
they're running a business, and you do your digging? What
Hmm.
kind of stuff do you find out that normally is a red flag that you notice happening pretty often?
Depending on the size of the company. If you're just starting out, you might not have your formation set up correctly. If you're going to be doing a certain dollar amount, you need to make sure that you going from maybe an LLC to an S corp, so to speak. Then maybe you have to have your state ID numbers in place so you can actually function properly. Like here in the state of Georgia, for example, if you have more than two employees, you got to have unemployment insurance and all those things that goes along with it. A lot of people don't know that, don't recognize that, and even
Yeah.
insurance for your business. A lot of those things like they go unnoticed and unthought about when you're trying to plan.
Yeah.
So getting
And
them getting the right systems in place and getting them where they need to be from a overall system standpoint.
yeah, and that can get complicated. I've had an LLC, I've had an S corp, I've had a C corp. I've had to get insurance for different businesses. I mean, it's complicated. It can be frustrating, time consuming, and expensive. But you're right, it's overlooked, and I think mainly because it's not the fun part, right? It's like the paperwork and like the administrative part. Nobody ever likes that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and so I've spoken to a lot of business owners. I'm sure you have too. And do you ever help them maybe get unstuck? Like, do they come to you and say, "Listen, I'm kind of stuck and I need help, moving forward"? Is that kind of part of what you do?
Absolutely. A lot of times they're stuck on the financial parts of it because they are making a lot of money, but they don't know where it's going. It's not going in their bank account. And that's where the
Why
systems
is
come into
that?
play.
What are the reasons
Because I
behind
mean,
that?
a lot of times, for whatever reason, people think sales is what you actually take home. You don't take sales home, you take profit home,
Yeah,
right? And that comes from margin. So if you don't understand the margin of what you're trying to distribute, if you only charge $100, but it charges you $75 to do it, well, that's leave you on $25. So that's not a whole lot of money going into your account for that particular project. So basically, if you price your services correctly, that's the number one thing for a lot of small businesses. They don't know what the pricing is for their company. That's where going out doing the research come into play, where you can research what other companies are doing, what they're charging, and charge accordingly.
to help our listeners out before we wrap up, what is one of the last times you helped a client succeed that kind of stands out in your mind? And like, what was it like when they came to you, and what was it like when they left? Like, what was the process? What does it look like at Mulework?
I think the major thing that work with kids that are or on the spectrum, and they have 5 or 6 people working for them. They were set up where they have 1099s going out to everybody. They had no way to communicate with each other than via email. Where again, you could use something like Slack to communicate, with each one of them on this, very simple platform. Um, they had no. She was not paying them correctly for mileage. So a lot of things she was not doing correctly. She didn't know she had to do those things, right? And so
Yeah.
once we worked out the kinks of it, and she felt more comfortable letting some things go. It started to work out better for her. We even set up a travel plan for her staff, and same thing with the phone systems that she had. It's just that you have to be able to communicate with people at that time. You can't let somebody not know what's going on. You have to be able to
Yeah.
communicate, and Slack is a great way to do that.
All right. And before we go, what advice do you have for a consultant, an entrepreneur, or business owner on how they can implement strategic solutions for smarter growth?
The main thing you have to do is do your research, and embrace technology, AI in particular, and get with somebody, take on a mentor, take on
Yeah.
somebody that that's been there before, that's done it in the past, that can actually help you go to get to where you need to be. You don't want to talk to somebody. Your next door neighbor might not know, what's going on, but you need to speak to somebody that's been there before.
And it sounds like that might be you. And if somebody wants to maybe get you as a mentor or get help from you, how would they get in touch with you?
Great. You can contact me at bobby.goodman at mulework.biz. That's one word, MULEWRK .biz. Or you can reach out to me via telephone at 866 617-2034.
Awesome, guys. If you need help, you know who to contact. Bobby. Check out mulework.biz, and hope you guys learned something, and we'll see you in the next episode.